Well, stocks, oil and gold prices kind of in last week. One asset set new highs for the year, our old pal Bitcoin. The digital currency surged 90% in 2020 and traded as high as $13,850 US. That's the highest level since January of 2018, when it was retreating from those historic highs. Well, let's bring in Jonathon Miller, MD of Kraken Australia, who joins us now. Pleasure to have you, Jonathon, on the show. What is behind this rise in Bitcoin?
Look, we're seeing a whole bunch of things, and some of those are really obvious ones. Uncertainty, and classically, crypto and Bitcoin in particular is seen as a hedge against traditional asset classes, being uncorrelated to a great extent, and kind of showing its divergence in the last months. But over the course of the year, it's been flirting in and out of correlation with traditional equities. But it's really diverged now. And coupled with that, you've also seen some really big news. I mean, one of your previous guests spent, close to 3 minutes talking about crypto when they were talking about private companies or listed companies and their potential performance. We've seen huge news from institutions who are now not only investing in crypto or advising their clients to invest in crypto, but we're seeing them invest in crypto directly. So, listed companies holding Bitcoin on their balance sheet as a treasury asset. Now that's completely new. So MicroStrategy is a big kind of player in this space now. They've had a lot of news. They've put close to $500 million US into, well, it's now $500 million. They're doing well out of this. $500 million US into crypto, into Bitcoin specifically as a treasury asset. So these kinds of news items, coupled with uncertainty, I think there's a lot of drivers, and this is just the beginning.
Jonathon, I'm keen to get your views on the push of several central banks out there to go and actually move into the digital coin space. Now, they're talking about fiat currencies that are digitalized, but when it comes to the likes of cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin in particular, does this legitimize the actual offering and maybe get into the mainstream and give it tailwinds ahead?
I think it absolutely does, because it speaks to the power of the underlying technology. A lot of these digital currencies that the central banks are looking at, they're looking at the underlying technology blockchain, which sits beneath cryptocurrency. So if it's good enough for central banks, you have to think it's good enough for anyone. These moves, it's slow going. It's absolutely slow going, but they're all positive. And I think what you see when central banks look at this, in particular the RBA just put out a statement that they're now looking at a working group after only 2 weeks ago saying that it's of no value to retail customers in Australia. I think they've backflipped on that. And they backflipped because it's impossible to argue that crypto and blockchain-based assets, be that for a currency purpose or other, and there's a whole swathe of alternate use cases, including equities, but this technology is the future.
Okay, so when you look at regulatory landscape going forward, I mean, obviously it's something we've discussed, but how do you view it for this particular space globally?
Becoming more harmonized. I mean, there's no such thing as a global regulator. There's lots of big regulators out there, and they're all starting to speak the same language. I think, back to the previous point, Christine Lagarde just requested, comment on a Eurozone CBDC, central bank digital currency, and that's because there's a framework behind it, and we're starting to see frameworks from major regulators, Europe and the US, allowing crypto technology, but also businesses who want to use this, and governments as well. So when you have that baseline, and you've seen that in the US, and with Kraken in particular taking advantage of a banking license that they've been able to acquire out of the state of Wyoming. So the infrastructure, the regulatory baseline is there. It's a steady rock now that you can look to as a leading indicator for more and more innovation within, I guess, known bounds as opposed to unknown bounds, which in my view and the view of our organisation is extremely positive. We've always been really positive when it comes to regulatory constraint. We think it's absolutely fundamental for regulators to be involved around this space because, as I mentioned earlier, it's not going away. In fact, it's quite the opposite.
Yeah, probably adds to that legitimisation story if you actually have it regulated as well. So one to keep an eye on for sure. Jonathon Miller, Kraken Chief Executive, thank you for your time this afternoon.
Thanks for having me.